Ethereum has completed its highly anticipated Shanghai Upgrade, while crypto investors are reportedly encountering delays for withdrawing funds deposited on the Ethereum blockchain. The industry appears excited about the change. The price of Ether hitting the $2,000 mark today for the first time in 8 months. Joining us now is Scott Melker, host of the Wolf of All Streets podcast. Good to see you, Scott. So let's first start with what we're seeing. A lot of people wondering, is the crypto winter over, or is this just a brief reprieve? What's your take?
I was calling the crypto winter over about 9 months ago over the summer when we bottomed in June. Of course, we then had the Black Swan event of FTX in November, but quickly retraced that move to the upside. I think it's been crypto spring for quite a while, but people forget that spring is in like a lion and out like a lamb, and there are very horrible weather days in spring as well. So I think it's a little too early to start calling for a crypto summer, but I do think that we're transitioning and that the bottom has been in for quite a while.
And so a lot of people wondering, what are going to be the next catalyst? First of all, with Bitcoin, it's going to be halving next year. Break down what that means and what the expectations are.
In the most simple terms, every 4 years or so, there's a Bitcoin halving, which means that new supply coming onto the market is effectively cut in half. So even the most basic understanding of supply and demand, if new supply is being cut in half and demand even stays the same, reduces slightly or goes up, of course, that means that price goes with it. And we've had a 4-year cycle where we've basically seen price rising into the halving. Then a few months later, you have this major move to the upside. And then we see these huge retracements of 75 to 85% coming into the next halving. Price starts to rise and we do it all again. If you had literally fallen on your head, been in a coma for the past couple of years, ignored everything happening in the macro, the entire bear market, you would look at a chart and see that we're still in the middle of yet another one of those same 4-year cycles.
And I want to talk Ethereum as well, the Shanghai Upgrade, because obviously we're seeing, at least today, Ethereum off to the races here versus Bitcoin. I mean, up about almost 6% on the day. What are your takeaways from that? And obviously a lot of excitement surrounding this.
Yeah, there was a bit of a nonsensical narrative that everybody who had staked their Ethereum for the past few years was going to try to withdraw at once, which you couldn't do anyways, and sell all their Ethereum. But you have to remember that anyone who staked their 32 Ethereum, which, by the way, for most people was over $60,000, but anyone who staked that 32 Ethereum had no guarantee they would even be able to withdraw. These are the people who are the biggest believers, the maximalists of Ethereum, who really wanted to help secure the network. So now that they're getting the opportunity to withdraw, they're going to continue staking. I think there were more people, and I can speak to this anecdotally from fund managers that I speak to in institutions, there are a lot more people who are actually waiting to deposit because they would then know that they would be able to withdraw at some point. So we're actually seeing net inflows over the past 24 hours. It's going back and forth, but there has not been a huge demand for people to withdraw, and there are just as many people putting their money into the contract. I think that this is a huge development for Ethereum, yet another major step in the right direction for the protocol.
And do you think perhaps investors are more bullish on Ethereum given the use cases versus Bitcoin?
I view them as completely separate assets. I think that the flipping narrative is completely irrelevant. I view Bitcoin as a digital gold store of value, flight to safety, and we've obviously seen that, especially with the banking collapses a few months ago and Bitcoin rising a few weeks ago, with Bitcoin rising from roughly $19,000 to over $30,000. Ethereum is more of a technological investment. It's the internet of value. And I think that we're starting to see that separation in people's minds. So I think you can love one, love both, and it's totally fine. You don't have to really choose. I think they're separate asset classes and should be viewed as such.
And so for people who are trying to, obviously, we're seeing more widespread adoption here, although with some scrutiny, as we mentioned there, from regulators, having people wondering, should I be using this as a security or an asset? But then now you have this partnership between eToro and Twitter, making it even more accessible. What's your take on that? Because when you throw in social media and obviously the speed at which misinformation can flow and misunderstandings as well, what's your take on that partnership and what that perhaps does to the adoption speed?
I think it's going to be great for adoption, both in the stock market and in crypto. eToro's founder, Yoni Asya, is an early Bitcoiner. He's a real firm crypto believer, and I think that that's going to be huge for this market moving forward. But really, I think that this is more bullish for eToro than anyone else, because if you click on a cash tag on Twitter, you see that market data and you want to trade. I think it's obvious that you're still going to have to become an eToro customer or go through KYC to be able to do that. I do think that we live now in a hyper informational market where things travel at the speed of light. I mean, even with the bank runs we saw in Silicon Valley and Silvergate, you're talking about 42 billion in withdrawals in a day. That was something that would have taken weeks or months in the past. So with that fast information and the fast moving market, I do think that this is going to increase volume and excitement around both crypto and the stock market moving forward, especially with that younger retail audience.
And so I hate to put you on the hot seat here, but in terms of where you see Bitcoin and Ethereum's prices going, what's your outlook telling you?
It really always depends on timeline, and nothing makes you look like more than a fool than pretending you have a crystal ball and then attaching it to a timeline. But I think that in general, we will see probably a choppy market for quite a while. I think it'll be the same for stocks, maybe some retracement coming soon for Bitcoin and Ethereum, and then slightly higher prices going into the end of the year. And then once again, since you brought up the halving before, I think next year, May 2024, April 2024 is when we're expecting to see that. I think a few months after that is when we'll see the next true bull market.
We'll definitely be keeping an eye on that. Always great to have you on with your insights. Scott Melker there for us. Thank you for joining us this afternoon.
Yeah.